The wind howled through the frozen cliffs of Zerelnine, sharp like knives. Snowflakes fell slowly, glowing faint blue under the twin moons. Siva held her son tighter under her torn cloak. Her legs were shaking, not from cold, but from fear. Child Tiri was only 4 years old, and already banished from his own people. The clan had spoken. You gave birth to a cursed one. You are both to leave. Now Siva didn't argue. She couldn't. Her own sister had turned away. The elders marked her forehead with glowing red ash, the sign of exile. No one would speak for her. No one would give her food or fire. She was no longer part of the clan, and now she was out here. In the freezing dark, the child who didn't understand what had happened, Mama Tiri whispered, his small hands clinging to her. Why are the stars so quiet? Siva didn't answer. How could she tell him the stars were not quiet, they were watching? Watching a mother and son be thrown away like broken tools. They walked for hours. Siva's feet bled in the snow. Her son cried when the wind howled too loud. She tried to find shelter, but there were only sharp rocks and frozen bushes. Then came the sound that made her freeze, a howl, not the wind. This was something worse. She pressed Tiri close and crawled into a crack between two stones. The child was silent now. His wide eyes shimmered with fear. Siva placed her hand over his mouth, shaped past bite-all, thin, glowing eyes, and teeth like glass. A night creature. They were always watching for the weak. And tonight, Siva and her son were the weakest beings on this planet. The beast sniffed the air. Its eyes glowed near the stones. It stepped closer. Siva tightened her grip on the rusty blade she had stolen from the clan's cooking hut. She knew it wouldn't kill the beast, but she'd at least die fighting. Just as the creature was about to sniff the crack in the rocks, a loud snap. The creature turned. Another sound followed. A light warm and golden moved in the trees beyond. The creature growled and ran off. Into the woods, afraid of something, or someone. Siva didn't move. She waited until she was sure the danger was gone. Then she slowly stood up, holding her child in one arm, blade in the other. The golden light grew brighter. Then she saw him, a tall, old human stood in the clearing, holding a long stick with fire at the end of torch. His thick coat was patched, and a beard covered his face. His boots crunched the snow as he stepped forward. Siva raised her blade. "Stay away!" hissed in her language. The human didn't flinch. He looked at her calmly, then at the child in her arms. Slowly, he placed the torch in the snow, held up both hands, took a step back. "I don't want to hurt you," he said softly. Siva didn't understand the words, but his tone was calm, not a threat. Still, she didn't lower her weapon. Human reached into his coat and pulled out a small, wrapped piece of food. He placed it gently on a rock and stepped back again. Siva stared at the food. Her stomach hurt from hunger. Tiri whimpered in her arms. Slowly, she walked to the rock and sniffed the food. It was warm. It smelled sweet bread, maybe, she gave it to Tiri, who began to eat quickly. The human smiled. Then he spoke again. "You can come to my farm. Just for the night. Safe, warm, and..." Siva didn't understand the words, but the feeling was clear kindness. She was quiet for a long time. Then finally, she gave a small nod. The human turned and began to walk. Lighting the way with his torch, Siva followed slowly, holding her son. She kept the blade in her hand. She didn't trust him yet, but he had saved them, and for the first time since exile. She didn't feel completely alone. The snow stopped falling, and the stars didn't feel as cold anymore. The fire crackled gently inside the small wooden house. It was not big, not fancy, but to Siva, it felt like stepping into another world. She had never seen a human home before. The air smelled of dry wood, strange oils, and something sweet cooking in a metal pot. Her son Tiri sat near the fire, eyes wide with wonder, hands outstretched to feel the warmth. His skin, once pale from cold, now glowed with soft life. The old human, who had not shared his name yet, poured hot water into 2 metal cups. He offered one to her. Siva didn't take it. Instead, she stared at him, hard. In her world, no one gave anything for free, especially not to outcasts, especially not to someone with a cursed child. "What do you want from me?" she asked sharply in her own language. Though she knew he wouldn't understand, the human simply nodded politely, pushed the cup toward her, and smiled. He sat down across from them, not too close, not too far. Safe distance. Wise man Tiri took the cup and sipped. He made a soft sound one Siva hadn't heard in weeks. A laugh. It was small, tired. But real. Siva lowered her blade just a little. That night, when the human left the room, Siva searched the cabin quickly. She was fast, quiet. She checked behind curtains, under furniture, inside crates. No cages, no weapons hidden. No signs of other people, just an old man living alone, surrounded by growing machines and farming tools. Why? Why would a human take in an alien woman and her child without fear or question? She didn't trust him. She couldn't afford to. But then she found something. Photo. Old and worn, it showed the human much younger standing with a woman and a small human child. All three were smiling. A family. Siva stared at it for a long time. The woman was gone now, maybe dead. The child, also gone. Maybe taken by war, disease, or worse. Suddenly she didn't feel like an intruder. She felt like a ghost walking into someone else's pain. In the morning, she woke up to a strange sound. Laughter, real full laughter. She rushed out, blade ready, only to stop at the door. Tiri was sitting on the old man's shoulders, holding two large alien fruits in his hands like they were trophies. The old man was walking through the snow, pointing at strange metal animals working in the fields machines. Farming bots? Tiri was. Smiling, so was the human. Siva stood there, confused, frozen not from the cold, but from something else. A heavy feeling in her chest. She wasn't used to seeing her son happy. Was it a trap? Was this all a trick? Her eyes narrowed. Later that day, the human handed her a warm coat. He pointed to her thin, damaged cloak and shook his head. She refused. The gift, pride burned inside her. But when the man left the room, Tiri pulled on her sleeve and whispered, "Can we stay, Mama? Just one more night?" Siva didn't answer. She sat down beside the fire and stared at the flames. She wanted to believe this was real, that they had found peace. But peace didn't come free in this galaxy. There was always a price, and the universe always came collecting that night. No. While she tucked Tiri into the soft bedding the human had prepared, the boy whispered again, "Mama, is he our new clan?" Siva's eyes stung. She looked out the window where the stars blinked like cold eyes. "No," she said softly. "Humans don't make clans." But deep inside her heart, a quiet voice asked, "Then why does it feel like?" He already did. Outside, in the distance, the trees are asled. Something was watching them. The human had been kind, but peace never lasts forever. The rain had stopped, but the ground outside the human's farm was soaked and heavy. Strange smells floated in the air-wet soil, metal roots and old smoke. John, the old human farmer, stepped out early in the morning, holding a tin mug and humming a quiet tune. He didn't get far. His boots froze mid-step. There just beyond the wooden fence were footprints, but not his, and not hers. He bent down slowly, frowning. The prints were light but sharp. 3 toes, long claws. Too long to be wild animals, too graceful for his own bots, and too fresh. He looked over his shoulder toward the barn inside. The alien woman and her son were still sleeping, or so he thought. Siva had not slept all night. Her mind was loud. Her body was still, but her eyes never left the ceiling beams of the barn. She heard every sound, the creak of the wood, the whir of a machine, the soft breathing of her child. She could feel something was wrong. Her instincts sharpened by exile, betrayal, and blood told her danger was near. So when the barn door creaked open, she saw the old man standing there, holding something in his hand. Her heart tightened. It wasn't a weapon. It was a muddy claw print pressed onto a flat piece of metal. "They found you," John said quietly. Siva didn't move. Her blade was already hidden beneath her sleeping roll. "How many?" she asked. "Just one set of prints so far?" "But that means more are coming." Siva's hands curled into fists. They had followed her. Tracked her across the ice fields, through the dark forest, the enforcers, the clan's hunters. They never stopped once a command was given. And the command had been clear: bring back the boy or kill them both. That afternoon, John reinforced the fence. He didn't ask questions. He didn't panic. He simply moved as if this was any other farm chore. Hammered metal plates onto weak posts, checked the drone batteries, laid down noise traps along the edge of the eastern woods. Siva watched him silently, confused. "Why?" she asked. John didn't stop working. "You've got a child. I've got a shotgun. That makes us both responsible for something." Siva tilted her head. "You are not clan. Why protect us?" "No." John finally looked at her. "I lost my wife too. Sickness, my son too. War, I don't have anyone left." He picked up a sack of salt and threw it over his shoulder. "You two showed up. That makes you my people now." Siva said nothing. But something heavy and warm grew in her chest. Not love, not yet, but something close. That evening, Thierry played with one of John's old botza, rusty helper with one arm missing, and a habit of singing human lullabies. The boy giggled and ran around the field, chasing it in circles. Siva sat nearby, sharpening her blade. She noticed something. The birds had gone quiet. Suddenly, the helper bot stopped singing. It froze, turned toward the woods, and said in a broken voice, "Unknown presence. Detected. Alert, alert." John came out of the house holding a long covered object in his hand. "Get the boy," he said to Siva. She didn't ask twice. She scooped Thierry up and ran back to the barn. John followed, slowly stepping toward the edge of the trees. He didn't see anything at first. Then he spotted them. Eyes dozens. Yellow, watching later that night. John sat in the barn with a shotgun across his lap. He had turned off all the lights except the small oil lamp near the door. Siva stood by the window, staring out. She could feel them, waiting, watching, planning. "You should run," she whispered. "You're not part of this." John gave her a tired smile. "Lady, I'm too old to run." Thierry pulled on his mother's cloak. "Mama, are they going to take us?" Siva knelt beside him. "No," she said. "Why?" She looked at the human farmer, sitting strong in the dark, guarding them like they were his own. "Because this time," she said, "someone is standing with us." The woods were too quiet. Not even the wind dared to move through the black trees. The birds had vanished. The air was heavy, still. Like the forest was holding its breath. John moved carefully, his boots soft in the wet leaves. His shotgun was cradled in his arms, the safety off. His breath came slow, controlled. Every step was measured. The only sound was the faint click of his old tracking drone overhead behind him. Far back in the barn, Siva waited with her son. She had wanted to come with him, but John said no. "If they see you," he'd said, "they'll strike fast. Let me draw them out." So she stayed. But her eyes hadn't left the woods once, and neither had her grip on her blade. John stopped near a tall tree with claw marks deep in the bark. He crouched low and ran his fingers across the fresh scars. "They're close," he whispered. Then he heard it. Snapped a twig. Just to the left, he turned instantly but saw nothing. Then again snap. Snap shadows moved between the trees. He raised his gun. "Don't come closer," he warned in a calm voice. I don't care what you are, I'll shoot." Silence then. A shape appeared. Tall, slender, wearing dark armor made of bone and metal. Its face was hidden by a smooth black mask. And in its hand a curved glowing spear, an alien enforcer. It tilted its head, studying him like a strange animal. Another one stepped out from the trees. And another. John's heart beat faster. But he didn't step back. They didn't speak. They just moved forward. Suddenly a flash. The first enforcer lunged. The spear sliced the air where John's head had been a second ago. He dropped to the ground, rolled, and fired. Boom. The blast hit the enforcer in the chest, throwing it against a tree. Sparks flew. The second one leaped. From above, claws ready to strike, but John spun and shot again. The creature's legs shattered, and it screamed a high-pitched sound that hurt John's ears. The third was smarter. It waited. Watched. John was bleeding from his shoulder now. He'd been grazed. Then something unexpected happened. The third enforcer spoke. "You protect the traitor and her spawn?" Its voice was hollow, cold, machine-like. John coughed and raised the barrel again. "Yeah," he said. "Got a problem with that?" The enforcer pointed its spear at him. "She is cursed. The boy is dangerous. He must return to be contained." John narrowed his eyes. "He's a child. He is a weapon." John didn't blink. "So am I." Enforcer moved fast, too fast. But just as it jumped, a blur cut through the trees. Taut Civ. She slammed into the enforcer with a scream of fury, knocking it off balance. Her blade slashed, catching its arm. Sparks and dark blood flew. She didn't stop. She stabbed again. And again. The enforcer screamed, then fell still. John sat up slowly, breathing hard. "You weren't supposed to come," he said. Siva turned. To him, eyes glowing with rage and something else, fear. "They were not supposed to find us." She answered back at the barn. Tiri watched from the window, wide-eyed. He had heard the sounds, the gunshots, the alien screams. He clutched a small wooden carving in his hand. John had given it to him, a tiny model of a horse, something Earth children once played with. He whispered softly, "Don't die." John leaned against a tree, holding his bleeding arm. Siva tore a strip from her sleeve and tied it around. "His wound, you saved me," he said, surprised. Siva looked down. "I thought humans only cared for their own." John smiled through the pain. "I don't see alien when I look at you. I see a mother." She hesitated, then quietly said, "And I see a human. Stronger than most I've known." They didn't speak for a while. Above them, the clouds began to shift. The stars were coming back out. But somewhere in the night, more enforcers were watching. This was just the beginning. Tiri screamed in his sleep. It wasn't a normal cry. It was deep, natural, like a storm trapped inside a child's voice. The barn walls shook. The lights flickered. The old farming bot outside powered down without warning. Siva rushed to her son and pulled him into her arms. His skin was glowing faintly pale, blue symbols spreading across his chest and neck like living ink. His eyes rolled back. His small hands gripped the blanket, then tore right through it with strength. "No. Child should have." "Not now," Siva whispered, terrified. "Not under the binding moon." John pushed the barn door open and froze. "What's happening to him?" Siva looked up, breathless, her face pale. "It's starting." She placed Tiri gently on the ground. The glow was growing stronger. His body shook as if something inside him wanted to break free. "Every few years," Siva said softly, "the moons enter alignment. It awakens what the elders called starfire blood." She looked into John's eyes. "My son was born during the last binding moon. That's why they feared him. He is different." John didn't blink. "Different how?" Siva touched her son's cheek. "When Tiri cries, the ground splits. When he feels pain, machines fail. When he's angry, people die." John's grip tightened on the doorframe. "And you're telling me this now?" "I didn't want to believe it," she said, tears in her eyes. "But I can't lie anymore. He needs something to stop it, or it will take him."
What is?
He needs. Siva closed her eyes. Moon fruit. From the cursed highlands, John had heard of the place. Even the robots refused to go near that region. Acid fogs, strange creatures, and stories of travelers disappearing.
No roads.
No maps, only danger. And now that's where he had to go. "Stay with him," John said. Grabbing his coat and his shotgun, Siva stood quickly. "You can't go alone. The terrain is poison. And the fruit only grows on trees, guarded by the bone. Wolves." John looked at her calm and steady. "You saved me once. Let me return the favor, but why? she asked, voice breaking. You're not his blood. You owe us nothing. John gave a tired smile. That boy smiled at me like I mattered. That's more than I've had in years. Siva didn't stop him, but before he left, she placed something in his hand. It was small and black, like a flat stone, warm to the touch. Symbols pulsed gently across its surface. What is this? A bindstone, Siva said. A what? My people's law. It marks protection. It's from the one who gives it. John frowned. You're binding yourself to me. I am, she said. If you die, the stone will break, and I will feel your last breath. John stared at her in silence. I'm just a farmer, he said finally. No, Siva whispered. You're more than that now. The journey was worse than John imagined. Thick fog choked the sky. The air burned his throat. Machines stopped working halfway up the slope. He climbed with nothing but a flashlight and rope. He was cut, bruised, nearly frozen. But he didn't turn back, because somewhere back at that farm, a boy was dying. And a woman, an alien he barely knew, had tied her soul to his. At the farm, Tiri's light faded. His breath came slower now. Siva sat beside him, whispering old songs. Then suddenly the bindstone around her neck turned hot. Her eyes widened. He's close, she whispered. Outside the winds howled like ghosts, and in the shadows beyond the trees, the clan had returned. Asterisk, the sky cracked open with thunder, but it wasn't a storm. It was ships. Siva stood outside the barn, her blade drawn, hair blowing wildly in the wind. Her eyes followed the streaks of light across the sky, dark shapes cutting. Through the clouds, fast and sharp like hunting birds, they weren't here to talk. The clan had returned. Dozens of ships circled the valley, searching. Closing in, inside the barn, Tiri was barely breathing. His small body pulsed with a fading blue light. The binding moon still glowed high above, feeding the curse in his blood. And John? He was still not back. Siva swallowed hard. She felt the bindstone still warm against her chest. He was alive. But for how long? In the distance, sharp horns echoed. A call of war. Siva's knees weakened. Memories rushed in of when they had dragged her before the elders. When they tore Tiri from her arms. When they branded her in exile, she had run far, suffered much. But now, the hunters stood at her door, and she would not run again. She walked into John's house and pulled a dusty box from beneath the floor. Inside, an old energy rifle. Still. Working. She glanced at the weapon. It's not your kind of tool, is it, farmer? She whispered. But tonight, she would fight like him. The first ship landed near the old scarecrow, crushing it under its landing legs. Tall warriors stepped out cloaked in dark silver armor. Their glowing eyes scanned the field like machines. The leader raised his staff and spoke in the alien tongue. The child is claimed by the stars. Return him to Asor, be destroyed. Siva stepped forward, rifle aimed, blade strapped to her hip. She said nothing. She didn't need to. Her eyes were fired suddenly. A sound in the trees. The warriors turned sharply. Branches snapped. A loud rustling. Then a familiar voice broke through the noise. Hope you didn't start the party without me. John. He stepped out from the forest, clothes torn, face bruised, holding a glowing purple fruit in one hand and a heavy shotgun in the other. The warriors raised their weapons. Siva screamed, John, behind you. He didn't duck. He fired. Boom. One warrior fell instantly. Siva took cover behind the fence, returning fire. The rifle kicked hard against her shoulder, but she didn't stop. She fired again and again, taking down another. The barn door burst open as a plasma bolt flew through, catching fire. Tiri still lay inside, weak, unconscious, but alive. John threw the moon fruit to Siva. He slid across the ground and reloaded. Feed it to him. He shouted. She caught it, rushed into the barn, and cut the fruit open. Glowing juice dripped down her fingers as she poured it into Tiri's mouth. For a moment, nothing. Then the symbols on his skin began to fade. His breathing slowed. The light dimmed. The curse was falling asleep. Tara whispered. "Mama," she cried. But she didn't stop. She kissed his forehead, stood up, and ran back outside. The field was fire. Smoke sparks. The leader of the enforcers stood now before John. His mask cracked, his staff burning with energy. "You chose death, human." The leader growled. John bled from his side but stood tall. "Funny," he said, cocking the shotgun. "So did you." Just as the enforcer moved to strike, Siva leapt from the barn roof. Blade first, her weapon sank into the warrior's neck. Sparks flew. He screamed and fell. The field fell silent. The remaining warriors stood still confused, unsure. Their leader was dead, and before them stood a farmer and an outcast, and they had won. The clan ships began to retreat, one by one. Lifted into the sky and disappeared. Later that night, Siva stood with John beside the field, watching the flames die down. "You should have left me," she whispered. John shook his head. "You and that boy. You're not a curse. You're just different. I don't leave people behind." Siva looked at him, voice trembling. "You didn't just save us." She placed her hand over the bindstone, still glowing on her chest. "You made us yours." Morning came slowly. The skies above the valley were clear now. No ships, no shadows. Only soft clouds and golden sunlight warming the broken fences, burnt grass, scattered tools. The battle was over, but something new had begun. John sat on the porch of his small farmhouse, a bandage across his ribs and a cup of hot tea in his hand. His shotgun rested beside him, but for the first time in weeks, he didn't feel the need to hold it. Beside him, Thierry giggled as he tried to feed a chicken with leftover bread. His laugh was light, free, no longer twisted by pain or fever. Siva stood near the field, eyes closed, face lifted toward the sun. Her long silver hair danced in the wind, and for once, she didn't look like a hunted woman. She looked like someone at peace. John took a slow sip of tea and spoke. "You know," said to no one in particular, "I never thought I'd find family again." Siva looked back at him. "You didn't find one," she said. "You made one." She walked over and sat beside him, her eyes soft. "Where I come from, clan is blood and rules and obedience." She looked at Thierry, who was now chasing the chicken in circles, laughing so hard he tripped and fell into the grass. "But here," she continued, "clan is bread and fire, and someone who doesn't leave when danger comes." John chuckled. "Strange how simple that sounds when you say it." Siva leaned back and whispered, "It's the first time I've ever felt safe." That afternoon, something unexpected happened. A small ship landed just beyond the field. John stood, weapon ready, but didn't raise it. Siva stepped forward cautiously. The ship opened. A single alien stepped out. A young woman with scars on her face and a child by her side. She held no weapon. She carried only a bag in her daughter's hand. Siva's eyes widened. "Yella," she breathed. "They cast you out too." The woman nodded, said, "My daughter glows like your boy. They feared her." She looked at John. "We heard rumors of a human who fights for outcasts." John scratched his beard. "Well, rumor travels fast." Siva stepped closer. "You're safe here." Yella smiled, and for the first time in her life, bowed to a human. Over the next days, more came. 2 elders with broken clan tattoos. A father and son who had lived in silence since exile, even a wounded warrior who once fought for the enforcers, but now sought forgiveness. John built more beds. Siva cooked strange alien stews over fire. Thierry and the other children ran through the fields, playing games no one taught them. There were no walls, no leaders, just people who refused to let others break alone. One night, stars filled the sky and laughter filled the air. John stood beside the old scarecrow post, watching the strange community grow. Siva joined him, holding a new cloth hand-woven tied with earth and alien patterns together. "What's that?" he asked. She smiled. "A clan banner. Not from my people. Not from yours. From us." She tied it to the post. It flapped in the wind, catching the light of the stars. John looked at it for a long moment, then looked at her. You know, I never had a daughter. Siva blinked, surprised. She looked down, voice soft. And I never had a father who stayed? They didn't say more, but both smiled, because no one needed to explain what they were anymore, in a quiet corner of the galaxy. In a field where no law ruled, a new kind of clan was born, not by blood, not by force, but by choice. And when the stars whispered stories again, they spoke of the old human farmer who gave the exiled a home.